clutter from these famous package designs and still have something that looks good with a ton of personality. You will be the judge. First up, I'll be simplifying Lay's potato chips. Now, the standard Lay's bag is already pretty simple, but luckily they have quite a few different flavors, like biscuits and gravy, bacon, mac and cheese, and everyone's favorite dill pickle. For this redesign though, I'm gonna use one of their newer flavors, sweet and spicy honey, which has a much more complex design with quite a bit going on. So let's start out our new design with a blank red bag that does have a touch more saturation. Now, this Lay's logo is actually a simplified version of their old one, which I actually think looks quite good. So I'm gonna grab a copy of that online here and pop that in. But you know, I never really understood what the purpose of this yellow circle is supposed to be. Like, is it supposed to be a sun since potatoes need sun to grow? Or maybe it's a balloon since half the bag is full of air. It could also be a pill casing, because you know they gotta be putting something in these to make them so addictive. I don't really know, but what I think it should be is a chip, because chips happen to be yellow and they're basically round too. So instead of having the logo and like 200 chips on the bag, I'm gonna make the chip part of the logo, having the ribbon wrap around it just like it did the yellow ball. This particular chip though is a little too round for his own good, so I'll stretch him out to better resemble a traditional chip shape. I'll also adjust the colors to make it feel more appetizing and less pale. And you usually do want food to have a little dimension to it so it doesn't look like a flat piece of paper. So some extra shading here and there will give us that touch of waviness that we're looking for. I'll shade the ribbon some more so it really looks like it's wrapping around the chip. Then a shadow will go right here to even better sell that effect. This nice soft shadow will separate the ribbon from the bag because we don't want them blending together. But since there's no shadow on this side, a tiny rim light will give us that needed separation. The sweet and spicy honey text can go down here in a friendly font that seems to fit Lay's brand. Now, to showcase this bowl of honey with a wooden dipper, several extra drops of honey, an entire pepper, a slice of another pepper, and they even threw in this honeycomb pattern for a good measure. Honestly, it's a bit much, and really none of it even ties in that well with the chips. So instead, why not combine the flavor elements with the chip, since the chip actually contains the flavor? Let's start with some delicious looking honey drizzle, just warping that around the top of the chip. It does need to be tamed down a tad, so the drips look less random and more intentional. But that will leave us with some inaccurate shines, so I'll need to fix those by painting some shading around the bottom of these edges. I think we need some darker, more rich tones in here, and since honey does allow light to pass through it, some of these drips will get a really nice glow right along the tips. Now, to me, it kind of feels like the top of the honey could use a lot more shine to it, so I'll add in a healthy amount of extra reflection that follows the contour of the honey. Just fade out some of those edges to give it a more realistic look. And last I checked, honey is see-through, so we'll need some of that chip showing up from beneath it. Of course, that honey will cast a shadow onto the chip, and it's super important to vary the thickness of your shadows if you want them to look realistic. But now for the spicy part of the flavor, I'll throw in this cool fire ring right behind here, along with another burning edge on the opposite side. And these are just supposed to be visible, but not overpowering. In fact, a few sparks coming out of those will make it feel like the entire top of the chip is on fire without having to cover the whole rim in flames. And with that, our new simplified Lay's packaging is done. And I honestly think this format would work really nicely for their entire line of flavors. Now, if you want a product that already has some decent looking minimal packaging, let's check out Bombas, the sponsor of today's video. Now, they don't just have great packaging, the socks are pretty great too. Not only are they super soft and comfy, but you don't have any annoying seam around the toe to get in your way. They've got built-in arch support, airflow venting so your feet can breathe, plus this little heel lip is fantastic. A lot of my other socks allow my shoes to rub against the back of my foot, but not these. These are actually some of the socks Bombas sent me from their performance series, and they're great especially if you're into sports or working out. Now, one of the coolest parts about Bombas is every time you buy one of their socks, shirts, or underwear, they'll donate a product to people in need. So if you buy some socks to keep your feet nice and comfy, you'll be doing the same for someone else out there whose feet could use a little help too. And at this point, Bombas has already donated over 100 million items. They have a 100% happiness guarantee, so if anything's wrong or they just aren't for you, just ship them back and no harm done. So there's no reason not to try them out and see what you think. You can get 20% off your first order from Bombas by using my link, bombas.com/Brandon, and use code Brandon when you check out. Thanks again to Bombas for sponsoring this video. Now we're tackling Energizer, one of the most popular battery brands in the world, and certainly the only one whose mascot is a giant pink bunny with a marching band bass drum. Between the 3D bunny render, the slew of text, and this hypnotic swirling pattern, we've got our work cut out for us if this is going to be simplified. First off, I know I want a much simpler background, but plain white is kind of boring, so I'm thinking maybe like a half and half look, something that matches the gray and black split tone of the actual batteries. But to be fair, I do actually kind of like these little circles though, but I'm going to use them a little more sparsely to act as a subtle transition between the dark and light areas of my background. The lines will get thinner the further down they go, as well as more spaced out, which should give us some nice visual interest without being too distracting. Next, I'll get the standard logo on here, and I do think the tilt actually does give it some extra energy. This is the max version of their batteries, which I'll place over here in plain sight instead of underneath the plastic like the old model, and the battery type can go in the same place as the original. Now, this realistic hairy furball is the exact opposite of minimal, so I'll replace him with a much simpler illustrated pink copper up here in this empty space. And instead of a drum, which never made much sense to me, what if he trailed out into a little lightning bolt? Because you know, bunnies are known for their speed, and batteries give things electricity. Now, the original packaging has a bunch of extra text, like this big number which makes you think the batteries will last 12 years, and they will, as long as they stay on the store shelf unopened. Oh, and did you also know that these batteries last up to 50% longer than Energizer's other models, which kind of just implies their other models are bad. But whatever, I'm gonna get rid of all that marketing fluff anyways, so we can see the actual batteries. Now these I think I'll simplify just by making them all black, throwing the Energizer logo on here, and then painting the top silver, so it's kind of like a mirrored version of the background. Max can go in red up at the top, so that we have all of these converging lines pointing directly at it. And with that, we've gone from a bunny bonanza to a sleek, minimal look that will probably sell less because it isn't filled with shady marketing jargon. Next up, we have Skittles. Now, I've eaten a lot of M&Ms in my day, but I've never actually had a Skittle. Despite that, I really love their fun, colorful branding, and I'm kind of interested to see what a minimal version would look like. Now, to start with, the logo isn't too complicated. It does have a few effects on it, which kind of makes me wonder what their old logos look like. Well, shoot, I actually really like this logo they had back in 2011. It's a little simpler, but it's just nice and clean. Plus, I'm a sucker for 3D logos, so I'll just throw that in here, make it a bit larger than the one on the original package, and I'm thinking red might look a little better than black since that is Skittles' main brand color. Finally, a dark red stroke around that to separate it from the background, and you can't have a logo that pops out like this without giving it a slick drop shadow for extra depth. The old package has this huge rainbow and tons of candies flying around everywhere, but maybe it'd be better to incorporate them with the logo. So why don't we have the rainbow coming out of the eye in Skittles? I'm using Photoshop's vector tools to make these nice and straight, and frankly, when you're dealing with this amount of shapes, it's good to have something you can go back to and easily edit if you need to. It basically is just a geyser spewing out of the letters, and I guess that geyser is spitting out rainbows and Skittles, which will be falling down all around from the peak of the burst. Each one will have a different color and rotation, and the little S logo can be warped to fit them to match their direction. Of course, we've got to have a drop shadow for those too. Now, the original design has the word original up in bold at the top, which seems a little unnecessary. It's kind of like writing unflavored on a bottle of water, and I'm not exactly sure why the green Skittle is getting so much special treatment. It just seems a little unfair to the other colors to me. As you might have guessed, I'm just gonna leave all that stuff out and settle for placing the legal text down here in this empty space and call it done. Like I said, I really love the original package, and while my design isn't better per se, I don't think it's half bad for a minimal approach to such a vibrant candy. Now we